Welcome back to Science in Sleeping. I'm so glad you're here tonight. This is your quiet corner, a gentle place where you can rest, breathe, and let your mind wander without pressure. Our topic for tonight is both familiar and mysterious, something you experience every single day, yet rarely pause to explore. We'll be drifting into the world of weather, the science behind the skies, the breezes, the rains, and the rhythms of nature that cradle our lives. As always, this journey has two purposes. One is to give you soothing company, something steady and soft to rest your thoughts upon as you drift toward sleep. The other is to gently awaken your curiosity, to let you learn without strain. So even if you drift off halfway, your mind is bathed in ideas and calm imagery. I hope this helps you slip into dreams with ease, or at the very least, leaves you more peaceful than before you pressed play. I'd love to know where you are listening from, and what time it is as you let this play. For many, it may be late at night, perhaps between 9 in the evening and 2 in the morning. You might be curled beneath a blanket, the lights dimmed, your phone resting on your nightstand or tucked gently in your hand. Maybe you're listening from a different corner of the world, where the sun is only now setting, or where the rain taps gently at your window. Wherever you are part of this shared quiet, a community of listeners breathing together across distances, finding comfort in science and stillness. Remember, you don't need to remember a single fact from tonight's journey. You don't have to hold on to the details. You don't need to study or analyze. Your only task here is to rest. Think of this as a soft river of words carrying you gently. Sometimes you may float with them, imagining the skies and storms we'll describe, and sometimes you may drift away entirely, your breathing deepening, your body sinking into the bed. Both are perfectly right. Both are perfectly welcome. So allow yourself to get comfortable. Adjust your pillow. Let your shoulders drop. Notice how the bed supports you fully. Notice how your breath moves in and out. Steady and natural. If a thought comes, you don't need to fight it. Just let it pass like a cloud moving across the sky. Tonight, the sky will be our theme. The endless stage where weather is written in shapes and movements. We will begin by painting the sky as a blanket. The atmosphere that surrounds and protects our planet will wander slowly through its layers, like climbing softly through invisible veils. Then we'll explore the breath of the air, the way pressure and temperature whisper together to shape winds and storms. We'll imagine clouds as pillows drifting across the heavens. We'll listen to the story of rain, the endless cycle of water rising and falling. And we'll let the rhythm of these natural forces lull us, just as they have lulled humans for thousands of years. There will be moments when we describe storms, thunder, and lightning, but don't worry. Even these will be told slowly, gently, as if in a dream. You'll hear about snow that falls silently, about winds that circle the earth like whispers, about the oceans that breathe in currents. And through all of this, we'll notice how deeply connected weather is to rest itself. The cool air that signals sleep, the steady rainfall that soothes the mind, the comforting rhythm of seasons. So now, settle in. Your night has brought you here for a reason. This is your time to let go of the day. The stresses, the deadlines, the unfinished lists, they can all wait. Right now, you are in a safe, calm space. I'll carry the story. You simply float together. Let's begin this gentle journey into the science of weather. Have you ever wondered what keeps the Earth safe beneath its wide sky? What invisible shield protects us from the emptiness of space, from burning sunlight, and from the cold void beyond? We often glance upward, noticing only the color of blue or the occasional cloud. But above us stretches something vast and layered, something that cradles us constantly. The atmosphere is not just air we breathe. It is a soft blanket that wraps the earth, shaping every breath of wind, every drop of rain, and every gentle whisper of weather. Picture yourself lying in a quiet meadow, the grass soft beneath your body, the sky wide above you. The air feels gentle against your skin, cool but comforting. As you gaze upward, the sky seems endless, a dome that stretches far beyond what your eyes can hold. And yet, what you are looking through is not empty. It is a delicate veil made of gases, layers stacked one upon another, stretching hundreds of kilometers into space. It is like lying under the world's largest quilt, a covering that you cannot touch yet always feel. This blanket of air softens the heat of day, holds the warmth of night, and lets life on Earth not only exist but flourish. Without it, there would be silence. No sound waves to carry voices, no air to breathe, no gentle winds to brush against your cheek. The atmosphere may seem invisible, but it is one of the most important parts of Earth's story. It is made of gases, mostly nitrogen and oxygen, with a touch of carbon dioxide, argon, and tiny amounts of other elements. These invisible particles are constantly moving, colliding, and flowing, and together they create the air that you breathe in and out every moment. Scientists often describe the atmosphere in layers, each with its own role, almost like the stacked blankets of a cozy bed. Closest to us is the troposphere, stretching from the ground up to about 12 kilometers above sea level. This is where weather happens, where clouds form, where winds blow, and where raindrops fall. It's the layer that feels most alive because it is constantly moving. Think of it as the lively surface of an ocean, always shifting, never still. Above the troposphere lies the stratosphere, which rises up to about 50 kilometers. Here the air is calmer, more stable, and home to something essential, the ozone layer. This layer is like sunglasses for the Earth, filtering harmful ultraviolet rays from the sun so that plants, animals, and humans can live safely below. Without the stratosphere's shield, the very fabric of life would be scorched. Beyond this, we enter the mesosphere, a region where temperatures drop sharply. If you've ever seen a meteor streak across the sky, glowing briefly before disappearing, that burning happens here. The mesosphere is like Earth's protective net, catching tiny fragments of space rock before they ever reach us. Most of those falling stars you wish upon are tiny particles meeting their end in this quiet layer. Higher still is the thermosphere, a realm where the air grows thin and temperatures climb dramatically. Here the auroras shimmer, painting the night sky with curtains of green and violet light. These displays are caused by particles from the sun colliding with gases in our atmosphere. Imagine the Earth wearing a glowing crown, a quiet dance of color far above where most of us will ever go. Finally, at the edge of space lies the exosphere, blending gradually into the vacuum beyond. It is a place where air is so thin that molecules drift for hundreds of kilometers without meeting another. Here, satellites orbit silently, circling the Earth while held by gravity's gentle pull. The atmosphere is not just static layers, it is alive. Winds shift and swirl, carrying warmth and moisture, connecting oceans to continents, forests to deserts. It is both fragile and strong, able to nurture life, yet sensitive to the smallest changes in temperature and chemistry. And even though it weighs billions of tons, pressing down on every square inch of the Earth, it feels invisible, like nothing at all. Did you know that if you could somehow gather all the air in the atmosphere and spread it evenly across the Earth's surface, it would form an ocean of air about 8 kilometers deep? Imagine walking on the floor of that invisible ocean, which is exactly what we do every day. We live at the bottom of an unseen sea, swimming through gases we rarely think about. Air pressure, the gentle push of all this air, is what allows weather to form. Where air is heavy, pressure is high. Where air is lighter, pressure is low. This constant shifting creates winds, storms, and the patterns of clouds we see. Without pressure, there would be no sound, no breath, no rain. Every sigh you take is a reminder that the blanket of air around you is alive and moving. Scientists once believed the air simply stretched endlessly, but over centuries, they began to realize it had boundaries. Torricelli, in the 1600s, built one of the first barometers, measuring the weight of the air. From that discovery grew centuries of exploration into how weather and atmosphere shape life itself. Even now, with satellites and supercomputers, the atmosphere holds mysteries. Tiny particles, called aerosols, drifting dust and salt from the sea, can influence clouds and rainfall in ways we are only beginning to understand. So the next time you breathe in, remember that the air you inhale may have been carried by winds across oceans, mountains, and forests. You are part of a global circulation, a quiet cycle that connects every living thing. The atmosphere is a blanket, yes, but also a storyteller. Every breeze is a whisper, every storm a declaration. It carries the scent of flowers from distant fields, the salt of seas, the dust of deserts. It holds the songs of birds, the echoes of laughter, the quiet sighs of night. Above us it glows with colors of dawn, deepens into the blues of noon, and finally softens into twilight. It is a canvas upon which weather paints its endless art. And perhaps it reminds us of our own fragility and strength. Just as the air surrounds and protects the earth, so too we surround one another with presence and care. We are part of this same ocean of breath, connected through every inhale and exhale. There is comfort in knowing that while you sleep, the air holds you gently, like a lullaby sung not by one voice, but by the entire planet. The sky is not empty, it is alive, and so are you. Wrapped in its embrace, you can rest, breathe, and know you belong. As we've seen, the atmosphere is more than air. It is the stage upon which weather begins. But what happens when this air shifts, when it presses down or rises up? How do these movements shape the winds and patterns we feel each day? In our next chapter, we'll drift into the breath of air itself, exploring pressure and movement. For now, simply rest with the thought that you are wrapped, always, in the sky's soft blanket. Have you ever wondered why the air moves? Why sometimes it feels still and silent, while at other times it rushes in powerful gusts that bend trees and rattle windows? What invisible hand pushes the atmosphere into motion? We cannot see air, yet we can feel its presence, hear its song, and watch its dance across landscapes. The breath of air, the endless circulation of winds, is one of Earth's oldest mysteries, shaping weather, carrying warmth, and whispering across the skin of every living thing. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a wide, open plain. The sky above is soft with twilight, and the horizon stretches without end. A breeze stirs, gentle at first, brushing against your face like a passing thought. Then it grows stronger, sweeping through the tall grass, bending the blades into waves that ripple like the sea. You close your eyes, and the wind becomes a voice, a steady hum carrying secrets from faraway mountains and oceans you cannot see. The air is alive, moving, restless, always traveling. And though you cannot see its shape, you know it is there, carrying scents, carrying warmth, carrying the endless pulse of the earth itself. The air around us may feel weightless, but it is heavy. Every column of air pressing down on you weighs more than 1,000 kilograms, though you do not notice it, because the pressure is equal inside and outside your body. This invisible weight is called air pressure, and it is the quiet force that sets weather into motion. Where air is dense and heavy, pressure is high. Where air is light and rising, pressure is low. The atmosphere is always seeking balance, and so air rushes from high-pressure regions to low-pressure ones. This simple movement, like water flowing downhill, is the birth of wind. But the story is never simple for long, because the earth spins, and with its spin comes a twist. This twist is known as the Coriolis effect, a gentle but powerful deflection that bends winds into spirals. In the northern hemisphere, winds curve to the right, while in the southern hemisphere, they bend to the left. This invisible hand shapes trade winds, hurricanes, and the great circulation patterns of our planet. Imagine the Earth as a vast, breathing creature. Every day, sunlight warms parts of the globe unevenly. The equator drinks in direct heat, while the poles remain cold. This difference drives immense flows of air. As warm air rises near the equator and cooler air sinks near the poles, the planet responds with vast circulation cells. The Hadley cell near the tropics, the Ferrel cell in the mid-latitudes, and the polar cell at the frozen edges, together. These cells act like gears in a grand machine, churning slowly but endlessly. Did you know that the winds we feel at the surface are only a fraction of the story? Above us, in the upper atmosphere, a river of air called the jet stream roars across continents. These streams can reach speeds of more than 300 kilometers per hour, guiding storms, steering clouds, and deciding the fate of seasons. Pilots often ride these winds to save time and fuel, slipping into their current like leaves caught in a river. Yet air does not only move in grand global currents, it stirs locally too, in ways we all know but rarely question. When the land heats faster than the sea during the day, air rises over the shore, pulling cooler ocean air inland. This is a sea breeze, gentle and refreshing. At night, the pattern reverses. The land cools quickly, the sea stays warm. and air moves back out to the water, creating a land breeze. These simple movements shape the lives of coastal communities, deciding when fishermen sail and when they stay on shore. In deserts, winds are sculptors, carving dunes into elegant curves. In mountains, winds are tricksters, rushing up one slope and tumbling down another in sudden, fierce gusts. And in forests, winds are messengers, carrying the scent of pine needles, the call of birds, and the soft rustle of leaves. Perhaps most mysterious of all is that air moves not only in great visible flows, but also in silence. High above, invisible waves of air pulse across the globe, rippling like vibrations on the surface of a drum. These are called atmospheric waves, and though we cannot see them, they ripple through weather systems, shifting storms, and balancing the great circulation. When storms brew, the breath of air grows chaotic. High pressure and low pressure battle, swirling winds into spirals. Hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones are all children of pressure. They are giant lungs of the earth, inhaling and exhaling with force, drawing energy from warm oceans and releasing it as rain. Wind and waves, but not all winds are fierce. Sometimes they are gentle companions. The trade winds carried explorers across oceans. Steady and reliable, they still flow today, linking continents through invisible threads. And sometimes winds are as delicate as a sigh, turning a weather vane or stirring a single leaf on an otherwise still night. The breath of air is constant, even now as you rest. The air around you is moving, perhaps slowly, perhaps unseen, but always in motion, carrying warmth from one region to another, balancing pressures, weaving weather across the face of the world. There is something haunting in the thought that we live within a breath. The atmosphere is not silent. It is always exhaling, inhaling, shifting its weight across continents. What we feel as wind is the earth itself balancing, sighing, whispering, reminding us that nothing is ever truly still. Think of the last time a breeze touched your cheek. It may have begun thousands of miles away, over an ocean, or among mountain ridges. It traveled, unseen, to find you, carrying stories older than memory. The breath of air connects us all, from the deserts, where sand drifts like liquid, to the frozen poles, where the wind sings in emptiness. It is the great unseen thread that ties every landscape together. Perhaps we too are like the wind, moving, changing, sometimes fierce, sometimes soft. Our presence felt not in what we are seen doing, but in the quiet traces we leave behind. And as the wind rests, so too may you. You are carried within the same currents that have shaped Earth since the beginning of time. The breath of air is the first note in the symphony of weather. But air does not move alone when warmth and coolness mingle. When the sun's touch stirs molecules into motion, something remarkable happens. Air becomes a stage for temperature's endless dance. In our next journey, we'll drift into that dance, exploring how heat rises, how cool air sinks, and how these movements create the heartbeat of weather itself. Have you ever wondered why warm air always seems to rise while cool air sinks? Why the summer sun makes the ground shimmer with waves of heat, while in the evening the same warmth drifts upward and vanishes into the sky? What hidden choreography decides how warmth moves through the atmosphere? The truth is, Every gentle breeze, every towering storm cloud, every comforting rainfall is born from a silent dance between heat and cold. A dance so delicate, yet so powerful, that it shapes the very heartbeat of weather across the earth. Imagine standing in a quiet valley at sunrise. The world is still, the air is crisp, and the sky glows softly with the first light of morning. Slowly, as the sun rises higher, you feel warmth spread across your skin. The rocks and soil around you begin to heat, radiating energy back into the air. The coolness of dawn is chased away by invisible currents of warmth lifting from the ground. You cannot see them, but you can feel them. A subtle stirring of air that begins to climb. It is as if the valley itself is exhaling, sending its warmth upward to join the morning sky. This is the beginning of the great temperature dance, a performance that unfolds every day, everywhere, guiding the rhythms of clouds, winds, and storms. At the core of weather lies a simple truth: warm air rises, cool air sinks. This is because warm air is lighter, less dense, and eager to climb, while cool air is heavier and more willing to settle. Though the idea sounds simple, it drives some of the most extraordinary phenomena in the atmosphere. When the sun shines on the earth, its energy does not warm everything evenly. Dark soil and city streets heat quickly, while oceans and forests absorb warmth more slowly. This uneven heating creates temperature contrasts, which in turn set air in motion. Think of it like a giant patchwork quilt, where some patches are hot and others are cool. The air above the hot patches rises, leaving behind a space of lower pressure, and the air from cooler regions rushes in to replace it. This movement of warm rising and cool sinking creates circulation patterns that ripple across the planet. One of the most vivid examples of this dance is convection. Convection happens when warm air near the surface rises in bubbles or columns. As it climbs, it expands because the pressure decreases with height. When gases expand, they cool, and so rising air gradually loses its heat if it cools enough. The water vapor it carries condenses into droplets, forming the puffy white clouds we see on sunny afternoons. Those cotton-like clouds floating in blue skies are silent records of the dance of temperature. Did you know that many thunderstorms begin as nothing more than a rising bubble of warm air? On a hot day, the ground heats the air above it, and that air begins to climb. As it rises, it cools, condensing moisture into clouds. If the rising air is strong enough, the clouds grow taller and darker, eventually building into towering storm systems. Every clap of thunder, every flash of lightning, begins with the simple act of warm air rising and cool air sinking. This dance is not only vertical, it is also global, near the equator. The sun's warmth is most intense, causing vast amounts of air to rise. As this warm air ascends, it cools and spreads out, drifting toward. Eventually, it sinks back toward the surface, creating belts of high pressure. This circulation forms the Hadley cells, massive loops of rising and sinking air that encircle the tropics. They are the engines that drive trade winds, monsoons, and even the placement of deserts. In contrast, at the poles, cold, dense air sinks steadily, flowing outward toward lower latitudes. This sinking air creates regions of persistent high pressure. Between these polar and equatorial systems, middle latitudes host their own patterns. The Forel cells, more chaotic and less symmetrical, balance the push and pull of temperature across the globe together. These great cells create an atmosphere in perpetual motion, a grand dance hall where heat and cold weave endlessly around one another. Closer to home, temperature differences also shape local weather. In the evening, when the land cools faster than the water, warm air lingers over the ocean, rising gently. Cooler air from the land slides outward to replace it, creating a land breeze. By day, the pattern reverses. As sunlit ground heats quickly and the warmer air above it rises, cooler, denser air from the sea rushes inland, creating a sea breeze. These daily exchanges are small echoes of the same global patterns, a reminder that the dance of temperature is everywhere. Perhaps one of the most mysterious aspects of temperature's dance lies in the inversions. Normally, air cools as it rises, but sometimes a layer of warm air sits above cooler air near the ground. This traps pollutants, fog, and even sound, creating eerie conditions where smoke refuses to rise and cities remain shrouded in haze. Inversions can hold cold air prisoner in valleys for days, creating strange pockets of weather that feel detached from the world above. Temperature also shapes how we feel, whether on our skin. On a humid night, air holds more warmth, wrapping around us like a heavy blanket. On a dry winter morning, air seems sharper, stealing heat from our bodies quickly. This is because water vapor, though invisible, is a powerful regulator of temperature. It traps warmth, carries energy, and releases it when condensation occurs. Without this hidden partner in the dance, our weather would be far less dramatic, far less alive. All of this movement, warmth rising, coolness sinking, creates the cycles we know as weather. Without it, clouds would not form, winds would not blow, rains would not fall. The dance of temperature is not just a scientific process, it is the pulse of the planet, the rhythm that shapes every storm and every gentle breeze. Temperature is not just a number on a thermometer, it is a dancer. It sways and leaps, rises and sinks, pulling the atmosphere into endless motion. Every sunrise is a curtain lifting on its performance. Every sunset a bow at the day's end. We see its footprints in the shape of clouds, in the shimmer of heat above a summer road, in the cool breath of evening air. And maybe it reminds us of ourselves. We too rise and fall, our energy sometimes high, sometimes low. We too are warmed by moments of brightness and cooled by moments of rest. We too are shaped by contrasts. Without heat, there would be no movement. Without coolness, there would be no balance. The dance is not chaos, but harmony, a reminder that differences create rhythm, and rhythm creates life. So, as you breathe now, imagine the air around you rising and sinking, a gentle choreography happening in silence. You are part of this dance, your warmth, your breath, your life, all moving with the same rhythm that moves the clouds, the winds, the seas, and as the atmosphere performs its endless ballet, you can rest, knowing you are held within its gentle embrace. The dance of temperature brings us clouds, winds, and storms. But among its most beautiful creations are the clouds themselves, those floating shapes of vapor that drift above us, sometimes soft as pillows, sometimes towering like castles in the sky. In our next journey, we'll lift our eyes to the heavens and wander among the clouds. We'll see how they form, how they change, and how they carry both mystery and comfort. For now, let the dance of warmth and coolness settle gently around you. Have you ever laid on the grass, staring upward, watching clouds drift slowly across the sky? Did you see shapes in them? Animals, faces, castles, or perhaps just gentle waves of white moving endlessly? Have you ever wondered what they really are, what secrets they hold as they float silently above us? Why some clouds look soft and inviting, while others rise like dark towers, crackling with lightning? What invisible hands shape them, guide them, and sometimes transform them into storms that shake the earth? Clouds are more than decorations of the sky. They are storytellers, carriers of memory, and builders of weather. Imagine lying on a hillside at dusk. The day is fading, the air is cool, and the first stars are peeking above the horizon. Overhead, clouds are drifting slowly, painted with strokes of gold and crimson. They stretch, they curl, they dissolve and reform, as if the sky itself were breathing. Some are wisps, so thin they almost disappear. Others are massive, glowing like mountains of fire as the sun sinks low. You watch as their colors fade into silver, then into deep shadows under the moon. The silence around you is filled with their presence, as if they are ancient travelers passing by. Every cloud carries a story, a trace of the journey it has made, rising from the sea, climbing over valleys, gliding across continents. To watch them is to glimpse the heartbeat of the atmosphere itself. Clouds may look soft and weightless, but they are built from billions of tiny water droplets or ice crystals. Each droplet forms around a microscopic particle, a speck of dust, salt, or ash suspended in the air. When rising air cools, its water vapor condenses onto these particles, creating clusters too small to see, yet together they gather by the billions, forming visible clouds that stretch across miles. There are many kinds of clouds, each with its own character. Cumulus clouds are the puffy ones, like floating cotton. They form on warm days when air rises in pockets, cooling and condensing into heaps that drift lazily across the blue. If they grow tall and heavy, they may transform into cumulonimbus, thunderclouds towering higher than mountains. These are the clouds of lightning and rain, the engines of storms. Then there are stratus clouds, flat and gray, blanketing the sky like a heavy sheet. They bring stillness, drizzle, and a muted kind of day where the sun is hidden but not absent. And cirrus clouds, high and delicate, like brushstrokes of ice across the heavens. They whisper of distant winds and changes to come, often appearing before a shift in the weather. The beauty of clouds is not just in their shapes, but in their constant transformation. A cumulus can swell into a storm in a matter of hours. A stratus can thin and vanish, replaced by sunlight. A cirrus can spread, weaving into veils that stretch across the horizon. The sky is never still, never finished, always painting itself anew. Clouds also carry weight, though they appear light. A single small cumulus cloud can hold hundreds of thousands of liters of water. A thunderstorm cloud can carry millions, yet they do not fall immediately. Their droplets are so tiny that rising air currents keep them suspended only when droplets collide and merge. Growing heavier, do they fall as rain, snow, or hail? This balance between upward lift and downward weight is the secret that keeps clouds afloat. One of the most mesmerizing aspects of clouds is their connection to the sun. At sunrise and sunset, light bends through the atmosphere, scattering reds and golds into their shapes. At night, under the moon, they glow softly, drifting like silver ships across the dark sea of the sky. They are artists of light, bending, scattering, reflecting, and sometimes hiding it. A storm cloud at dusk can burn like fire, while a morning fog can swallow the world in white silence. But clouds are more than beautiful. They are essential to life. They regulate temperature by shading the earth in the day and trapping warmth at night. They carry water across continents, releasing it as rain to rivers, forests, and fields. Without clouds, the cycle of water would be broken. They are the couriers of life, endlessly lifting moisture from the seas, carrying it inland and returning it as nourishment. Their presence is also a mystery, for no two clouds are ever alike. Each is a fleeting sculpture shaped by wind, heat, and moisture, even within the same sky. Two clouds can grow differently, one dissolving while the other rises into a tower. It is as if the sky is a stage, and each cloud a performer with its own role to play. Some clouds inspire calm, gentle cumulus, drifting like daydreams. Others bring awe and fear, thunderheads rising like cathedrals, filled with lightning's roar. Pilots, sailors, and shepherds once studied them closely, reading the future in their forms. Even now, they remain one of the best clues to coming weather. A thin veil of cirrus may warn of an approaching storm system. A darkening stratus may whisper of days of rain ahead. And yet, for all our science, clouds still keep secrets. They are difficult to predict, difficult to model, because they form at the edge of chaos. Tiny differences in air temperature, humidity, or wind can change their fate entirely. One moment, clear skies; the next, a gathering storm. They remind us of nature's subtlety, its refusal to be entirely controlled. Clouds are the dreamers of the sky. They wander, they drift, they gather, they break apart. They never stay, never cling, never freeze in place. They are a reminder that beauty can be fleeting and still eternal, that something which passes is not lost but reborn. Again and again, to lie beneath them is to share in their journey. To feel their shadows drift over you is to feel the touch of the atmosphere's breath. To see their colors change with the setting sun is to glimpse time itself painting across the heavens. They are both comfort and warning, both softness and storm. They show us that opposites, light and dark, calm and fury, can coexist within the same sky. Perhaps this is why we find them so fascinating, why children see shapes in them, why poets write of them, why dreamers look up and feel less alone. They are the great companions of the earth, the pillows of the sky, always above us, always moving, always whispering of what is and what is yet to come. So as you rest now, imagine the clouds drifting silently above your home, above your city, above the oceans and mountains. They are soft guardians, carrying water, carrying light, carrying memory. Their shadows stretch across the world, yet they remain untouchable. Let them carry your thoughts as well, letting them drift, dissolve, and transform. For like the clouds, your worries can pass, and like the sky, you remain vast, endless, open. Clouds are the storytellers of the sky, but behind them lies something even more mysterious: the winds that shape them, carry them, and sometimes tear them apart. Winds are the invisible sculptors of weather, the unseen currents that guide storms and calm alike. They can be whispers or roars, gentle sighs or howling gales. In our next journey, we will follow the path of the wind. We will listen to its secrets, feel its strength, and learn how it connects every corner of our world. Have you ever felt the wind brush against your skin and wondered where it began? Was it born in the mountains, rushing down snowy slopes? Or did it rise from the ocean, carrying the salt and memory of distant waves? Have you ever thought of wind not just as moving air, but as an invisible hand shaping everything around us, guiding clouds, stirring seas, carrying seeds, even whispering through trees as if telling secrets too old to remember? What if I told you that every breeze you feel has traveled, has a story, has touched faraway places before reaching you? Close your eyes and imagine standing in an open field. The world is quiet, the sky vast, and the only sound is the soft rustle of grass moving in the breeze. The air presses gently against your face, cool yet comforting. You cannot see it, but you feel it wrapping around you. Every blade of grass bends, every leaf shivers. Every sound carries farther than before in this moment. The wind is both gentle companion and restless traveler. It does not ask permission. It does not rest. It simply moves, weaving through valleys, climbing mountains, crossing oceans. It is the planet's great breath, forever flowing, forever shaping, and you are standing within it, a part of its endless journey. Wind is simply air in motion, yet its simplicity hides endless complexity at its heart. Wind is driven by differences in temperature and pressure. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and in their dance, movement is born. From the smallest breeze at your window to the colossal jet streams circling the globe, wind is the pulse of the atmosphere. When sunlight warms the earth unevenly, some places become hotter than others. Dark soil heats quickly, oceans more slowly. Mountains trap cool air, and deserts radiate heat fiercely. This unevenness creates pressure, differences, pockets where air wants to move. Air always flows from areas of high pressure to low pressure, seeking balance, and that flow, scaled across thousands of miles, becomes wind. But the earth does not make it so simple, because our planet spins. Every moving current of air is bent, twisted, guided by what is called the Coriolis effect. In the northern hemisphere, winds curve to the right. In the southern hemisphere, to the left. This invisible deflection sculpts the great spirals of storms, the flow of trade winds, the path of hurricanes. Without the Earth's spin, winds might only rush straight from poles to equator. Instead, they form beautiful patterns, sweeping gyres, constant rivers of moving air high above us. At the boundary where warm and cold air masses meet, race the jet streams. These are narrow bands of fast-moving wind, circling the globe at speeds over 200 miles per hour. They steer weather systems, deciding whether storms linger or pass quickly. A shift in a jet stream can mean drought for one region and floods for another. Airlines use them to save time and fuel, riding the invisible highways of the sky. On smaller scales, winds bring local rhythms. The gentle sea breeze is born when land heats faster than water, pulling cool ocean air inland by day. At night, the pattern reverses, and air flows gently back toward the water. In the mountains, winds slide down slopes after sunset, carrying cool air into valleys like a river of breath. In deserts, winds lift sand into whirling dust devils, tiny cousins of tornadoes. Every landscape has its own winds, each with its own song. Winds also carry life. Seeds float across meadows, dandelion puffs drifting on unseen currents. Migrating birds spread their wings and ride thermals, using invisible elevators of rising warm air. Even insects as small as spiders release silk threads and let the wind carry them across great distances. Entire forests and ecosystems depend on wind, not just for pollination, but for survival. Without wind, rain might never travel far inland, and climates would stagnate into silence. But winds can also bring power and fury. When conditions align, winds spiral into storms. A hurricane, for example, is a masterpiece of wind's force. It gathers energy from warm ocean waters, spinning faster and faster. Winds wrapping tightly around a calm, silent eye. Tornadoes, though smaller, are even more violent, with winds spinning faster than 200 miles per hour. They are reminders that the same invisible breath that cools a summer evening can also tear down forests and towns. Despite their mystery, humans have long studied and depended on winds. Ancient sailors read the trade winds, steady flows across the oceans that carried ships for centuries. Farmers learned to read winds as signs of coming rain. Even today, the placement of wind turbines is chosen carefully to catch reliable breezes. The wind is a gift of power as well as a mystery of motion, and yet wind remains unpredictable. It can shift in a moment, turn calm seas into raging waves, carry smoke across continents, scatter clouds into nothing. It is always there, unseen yet present, a force we cannot hold in our hands but can always feel against our skin. Wind connects the entire planet, tying distant places together, carrying dust from the Sahara to fertilize the Amazon, carrying volcanic ash across oceans, carrying songs and scents, memories and messages. Every gust you feel is part of this vast and unending circulation. The wind is a ghost we live with. It is everywhere, yet nowhere. It cannot be seen, but it can be heard, felt, and even feared. It is a reminder of things beyond our control, yet also a comfort in its constancy. When you hear the trees sighing, when curtains stir at night, when your breath meets the breeze, you are touching the same force that has circled the earth for billions of years. Think of how it has carried explorers across seas, how it has whispered through deserts, how it has sculpted dunes and carved cliffs, how it has spread seeds and stories alike. The wind is both ancient and newborn, never the same twice, always changing, always flowing. Perhaps that is why we find it calming. To sit in the wind is to be reminded that the world is alive, that nothing is truly still, that even silence is filled with motion. And maybe, in its restless wandering, the wind is like our own thoughts, sometimes rushing, sometimes drifting, sometimes soft, sometimes wild, but always moving, always seeking balance. As you lie here listening, imagine the wind carrying your worries away, lifting them like leaves, scattering them far beyond the horizon. Let it be a friend, a companion, a quiet whisper telling you that you are part of something vast, that you are never alone. For the same air brushing your skin now is circling the entire globe. The wind is with you, and always will be. The wind carries clouds, whispers through forests, and sculpts deserts. But there is another side to its story, for when wind and moisture come together, the sky opens, raindrops fall, rivers, and the rhythm of the water cycle continues its eternal dance. In the next chapter, we will follow this journey of water through the heavens, from the ocean's surface to the mountain stream, from mist to rainfall, from drop to river. Let us drift gently into the secrets of rain. Have you ever listened to the sound of rain falling at night and felt your mind soften? The steady rhythm tapping against your window, the soft hiss on the roof, the delicate drops sliding down glass. Why does rain calm us so deeply, almost like a lullaby written by the earth itself? And have you ever wondered where each drop comes from, how it forms, how it travels, how it returns again and again in an endless cycle? The water cycle is not just science. It is the eternal heartbeat of our world, the rhythm that never stops. Imagine yourself walking through a quiet forest as the rain begins to fall. The air smells fresh, alive, carrying the earthy scent that rises when raindrops meet dry soil. Above, the canopy of leaves catches the first drops, each one falling with a tiny note. Soon the rhythm deepens, soft and steady. A music older than memory. Puddles form, streams swell, rivulets run down tree trunks. You tilt your head upward. Feel the cool droplets kiss your face. Each one has traveled farther than you can imagine. Perhaps from a distant ocean, perhaps from a cloud borne over mountains. You are standing in the middle of a cycle, so vast it has shaped continents, carved valleys, nourished forests, and written life's story again and again. Rain is not merely water falling from the sky. It is the final act of an endless journey. The water cycle, also called the hydrologic cycle, is the process by which water moves through Earth's atmosphere, land, and oceans. It begins when the sun warms oceans, lakes, and rivers, causing water to evaporate. Invisible vapor rises into the air, joining currents that carry it upward. As it ascends, the air cools, and the vapor condenses into droplets, forming clouds. Within those clouds, droplets grow, colliding, merging, and gathering weight until gravity pulls them down as rain. But this story is never linear. Sometimes droplets freeze into ice crystals, falling as snow. Sometimes they form delicate beads of mist, clinging to morning grass as dew. Sometimes they return as hail, shaped in the violent updrafts of storm clouds. Every form is part of the same eternal circulation. Once raindrops reach the ground, their journey splits into countless paths. Some sink into the soil, nourishing roots, joining underground rivers, and slowly feeding springs. Some gather in puddles and streams, flowing toward rivers that wind their way back to the sea. Some evaporate almost immediately, rising again before they ever touch the ground for long. The water cycle has no beginning and no end. It is a circle, eternal and unbroken. What makes this cycle extraordinary is its power to shape the very face of Earth. Over millions of years, rainfall has carved canyons, sculpted valleys, and worn down mountains. Every drop contributes to erosion, to the slow transformation of landscapes. Entire ecosystems bloom and wither depending on rainfall patterns. Too much rain brings floods, reshaping lives in days. Too little rain brings drought, silence, and struggle. The balance of water is the balance of life itself. Rain also connects continents in unseen ways. Moisture evaporating from the Amazon rainforest can travel thousands of miles, falling later as rain over fields in another country. The oceans breathe vapor into the sky, which later feeds rivers that sustain cities. A raindrop that falls on your window tonight may once have been part of a glacier, a sea, or even the breath of an animal long gone. Each drop carries a history, each drop a memory. The sound of rain itself has fascinated scientists. The steady rhythm is random yet patterned. It resembles white noise, a sound that masks harsher frequencies and soothes the human brain. That is why rain is calming, why so many sleep. 2 recordings of rainfall. It quiets the mind, lowers stress, and reminds us of safety, of shelter, of cycles beyond our control in a storm cloud. The process of raindrop formation is surprisingly dramatic. Tiny droplets are carried upward by powerful currents, colliding with others, sticking together. Some rise and fall again and again, growing with each pass, until finally too heavy to remain suspended. When they fall, they may break apart into smaller droplets, or join others in midair. By the time they strike the ground, they have already lived a miniature storm of their own. No 2 raindrops take the same journey, yet all are part of the same great rhythm. Rain also shapes our climate in tropical regions. Daily rainfall feeds vast forests that produce much of the planet's oxygen. In arid regions, rare rains trigger bursts of life flowers blooming, animals emerging, seeds sprouting after years of waiting. The timing of rain determines harvests, migrations, and survival itself. Civilizations rose and fell based on rains, depending on floods from rivers like the Nile, the Tigris, and the Ganges. Rain has always been the giver and taker, the promise and the threat, and still, despite all our science, rain retains its mystery. We cannot perfectly predict it. A forecast may promise showers that never arrive, or stay silent before an unexpected storm. The atmosphere is a chaotic system, sensitive to the smallest changes, and rain remains one of its most delicate, most beautiful expressions. Rain is not just water, it is renewal. It is the world's reminder that cycles never end, that endings are always beginnings. Each drop is a traveler, falling softly, carrying oceans, rivers, and clouds in its memory. When it touches your skin, you are part of something timeless. Rain writes poetry on rooftops. It paints mirrors across streets. It sings in forests and whispers in deserts. It gathers in tears and rivers alike, blurring the line between the personal and the planetary. It is both intimate and infinite. Perhaps that is why we find rain so soothing, because it tells us, again and again, that nothing is lost, only transformed. The water that falls tonight will rise tomorrow, will drift into clouds, will fall again elsewhere. We are part of that rhythm, each breath, each sip, each tear. The same water that touched ancient mountains flows through us now, and one day it will rise from us, joining clouds, falling once more as rain. So, as you drift tonight, imagine the rain outside your window. Imagine it falling, not only for you, but for forests, for rivers, for oceans. Imagine it carrying away your worries, cleansing your thoughts like it cleanses the earth. And let its rhythm be your rhythm, steady, gentle, endless. For rain will always return, always renew, always remind you that cycles bring peace. Rain is the most familiar face of the water cycle. But sometimes water takes a different form. When clouds turn cold, when the sky grows heavy with winter's breath, raindrops transform into snowflakes, each one a frozen jewel. Unique and delicate, they fall in silence, covering the world in a soft white blanket. In the next chapter, we will wander into that silence. We will learn how snow and ice are born, and why their quiet power shapes not only seasons, but entire ages of the earth. Have you ever stood at a window and watched a storm approach? The air heavy, the sky darkening, the distant growl of thunder rolling closer. Why do storms hold such power over us, filling us with both awe and unease? What hidden forces turn a peaceful sky into a roaring battlefield of wind, lightning, and rain? And have you ever wondered if storms are not simply chaos, but rather the earth itself seeking balance? Storms are not accidents. They are the atmosphere's way of releasing energy, its way of resetting the scales. Picture yourself in a small cabin on the edge of a wide plain. The evening air is warm and restless, carrying the scent of grass and dust. The horizon glows faintly with the last colors of sunset. But above, the sky is restless. Clouds gather like dark mountains, edges glowing with flashes of hidden light. The silence before the storm is almost louder than thunder. Every sound seems sharpened: the chirp of a bird, the creak of a tree, even your own breath. Then, a gust of wind sweeps through, rattling windows, carrying with it the first drops of rain. You know what is coming, yet you cannot look away. The storm is both fearsome and beautiful, a reminder that you are small yet deeply connected to forces vast and eternal. At their heart, storms are born from imbalance. When warm, moist air rises into the cooler layers of the atmosphere, it sets into motion a chain of energy. The rising air cools, condenses into clouds, and releases heat called latent heat that fuels the system even further. Like breath feeding fire, each rising current strengthens the storm, drawing in more air, building more clouds, unleashing more rain. Thunderstorms, the most common storms, form when these rising currents become powerful. Cumulonimbus clouds grow taller than mountains, their tops flattening into anvils at the edge of the stratosphere. Inside, droplets and ice crystals collide violently, creating charge separations. This invisible electricity builds until the sky can hold it no longer. A bolt of lightning explodes across the heavens, hotter than the surface of the sun. The sudden heat expands the air so fast that it creates the crack we call thunder. Each flash and rumble is not just noise. but the atmosphere releasing pent-up energy. Some storms, however, grow far larger and more destructive. When thunderstorms organize together, they can form supercells, rotating towers of cloud where wind shear twists rising air into spirals. These systems give birth to tornadoes, funnels of wind that touch down and carve paths across the land. Though violent, they remain rare, and within them lies the same principal nature, seeking equilibrium. Air rushing from one extreme to another, balance restored in dramatic fashion. On an even grander scale lie hurricanes and typhoons. These colossal storms are fueled by the heat of tropical oceans. Warm water evaporates, rises, condenses, and releases heat. The cycle spins faster and faster, creating a massive engine of wind and rain. Around the calm eye lies a wall of fury, winds spiraling at tremendous speeds. Entire coastlines are shaped, cities tested, and yet, at the very center, a silence persists. The eye of the storm is a paradoxeter calm, surrounded by chaos. It is a reminder that even within turmoil, balance finds a still point. But storms are not only destructive, they are necessary. They redistribute heat and moisture, moving energy from the tropics toward. Without storms, climates would stagnate, imbalance would grow unbearable. Storms replenish rivers, recharge soils, and renew ecosystems. Lightning, in striking the ground, creates nitrogen compounds that fertilize plants. Even in their violence, storms are givers as well as takers. One of the most fascinating aspects of storms is their unpredictability. We can model them, track them, even give them names. Yet each storm follows its own path, born of subtle shifts in wind, heat, and water. A thunderstorm can fizzle in minutes, while another, seemingly the same, can unleash torrents of rain. This unpredictability is part of their power. They remind us that the atmosphere is not a machine, but a living system. A system vast enough to resist total control. And yet, as frightening as storms can be, they also captivate us. We gather at windows to watch lightning split the night. We listen to the rhythm of rain pounding roofs. We feel a thrill in the crash of thunder, even as it startles us. Perhaps storms awaken something deep within us, a recognition that chaos and order are intertwined, that the same forces that terrify us are also the ones that sustain life. Storms are the earth exhaling. They are the breath after holding too long, the voice of the sky when silence can no longer hold. They are not punishment but expression, not destruction but release. Lightning is a reminder of light hidden in darkness. Thunder is the echo of energy finding its way home. Rain is the cleansing that follows, the soft apology after the roar. Storms show us that beauty can be fierce, that balance is not always gentle, but sometimes dramatic. And yet, even in their violence, there is awe. We sit in the safety of our homes, watching, listening, and remembering that we are small, but we are also part of it, part of the same cycle. Our hearts beat faster with the rhythm of thunder. Our breaths deepen with the smell of rain. Our thoughts pause in the flash of lightning. Storms wake us, humble us, and strangely soothe us. So when the storm passes and silence returns, when the air feels washed, when the ground glistens with new rain, you realize the storm was never only chaos, it was renewal, a reset, a reminder that balance always returns. The earth had to release. And now, peace follows, and so it is with us. Storms inside and storms outside. They come, they roar, they pass, they leave us new, and in their wake we find calm again. Storms may roar with thunder and lightning, but when the air grows colder, when the sky's breath freezes, the story changes. The same water that falls as rain may drift down as snow, crystals forming silently, each one unique, each one delicate. The world is transformed not with noise, but with stillness. In our next journey, we will walk into that silence. We will explore the frozen wonders of snow and ice, and learn how they shape not just winters, but entire ages of Earth. Have you ever stepped outside on a winter night and noticed how the world grows strangely quiet? How every sound feels muted, as though wrapped in a soft blanket? Why does snow bring such stillness, and what hidden story lies within its fragile crystals? And have you ever wondered how something as delicate as a snowflake could shape entire landscapes, even carve valleys and mountains? Ice and snow may seem gentle, but together they hold the power to sculpt the earth itself. They are the slow, silent architects of time. Picture yourself walking along a quiet path under a pale winter moon. The ground glistens with fresh snow, each step crunching softly beneath your feet. The air is sharp and clear, carrying the faint scent of pine and wood smoke. The world feels hushed, as though holding its breath. Every branch carries delicate white lace. Every rooftop wears a shining crown. Above, the stars seem brighter. Reflected in the crystals of ice all around, you pause, noticing how the silence itself seems alive, as if the snow has gathered up the noise of the world and tucked it away. This stillness feels timeless, as though you are standing not just in winter, but in the memory of winters long past. Snow begins as a single drop of water vapor, high in the cold atmosphere, where temperatures fall below freezing. Water vapor clings to dust or pollen. A tiny crystal forms, its shape guided by temperature, timidity, and chance. As it drifts downward, the crystal grows, branching into patterns both intricate and fleeting. No two snowflakes are truly alike, though all share the same hexagonal symmetry born from the molecular bonds of water. When billions of these crystals fall together, they create snow. Light scatters through their lattice, giving the world its pure white glow. But snow is more than a seasonal decoration. It is a vast reservoir of fresh water. Mountains that catch winter snow release it slowly in spring, feeding rivers and lakes. Entire civilizations depend on this hidden storage. Without snowpacks melting at just the right pace, crops would wither, rivers would dry, and cities would thirst. Ice, too, tells a deeper story. When snow accumulates year after year, compressed under its own weight, it transforms into glacial ice. Glaciers are slow-moving rivers of frozen time. Grinding across landscapes with immense patience, they carve valleys, sculpt mountains, and shape entire continents. The fjords of Norway, the Great Lakes of North America, and countless other wonders are gifts of glaciers. These silent architects have rewritten geography, not with sudden storms, but with steady persistence. Even more astonishing, glaciers and ice sheets act as Earth's memory. Within their frozen layers, are tiny bubbles of ancient air. Scientists drill deep cores into Antarctica and Greenland, extracting samples that preserve the atmosphere from hundreds of thousands of years ago. By studying them, we learn of past climates, volcanic eruptions, and even the rhythm of ice ages. Ice is not just frozen water, it is frozen history. The presence of snow and ice also plays a critical role in regulating Earth's temperature. Bright white surfaces reflect sunlight back into space, a phenomenon called albedo. Without it, the planet would absorb far more heat, tilting the balance toward relentless warming. Thus, ice is not just passive. It is a Kiva shield protecting the Earth from extremes. But ice and snow can also bring danger. Blizzards bury cities under blankets of white. Avalanches roar down mountainsides with unstoppable force. Ice storms glaze entire forests, weighing down branches until they snap. And yet, each of these events reminds us of the duality of frozen water. It is both a giver of life and a challenge to survival. Perhaps the most suspenseful story of ice is the cycle of ice ages. For millions of years, Earth's climate has shifted between colder and warmer periods. Vast ice sheets have advanced and retreated, reshaping continents at the height of an ice age. Glaciers stretched from pole to pole, trapping oceans in frozen prisons. Sea levels fell, coastlines shifted, and ecosystems transformed. Then, slowly, warmth returned, and the ice withdrew, leaving behind the landscapes we know today. The mystery still lingers. What small shifts tipped the balance, plunging the world into frozen centuries? Then, lifting it out again, the answers are written in ice. But we are still learning to read them. Today, snow and ice remind us of change. Glaciers retreat, sea ice thins, winters shorten, yet their story continues. For even in melting ice shapes, rivers, coasts, and futures, it is both fragile and enduring, vulnerable and eternal, a paradox that mirrors the rhythms of Earth itself. Snow is silence made visible, each flake a whisper, each drift a pause. It falls without haste, yet covers mountains, cities, and fields alike. Snow reminds us that strength can be soft, that vastness can come from countless fragile pieces. Ice is memory made solid, a library where the Earth has written its story in layers. Every bubble of air, every trapped speck of dust, a chapter preserved. When you stand upon a glacier, you are standing on centuries of time. A river that moves too slowly for us to see, yet changes everything it touches. Together, snow and ice speak in contrasts. They dazzle with brightness, yet conceal great depths. They bring stillness, yet hold within them forces immense enough to shape worlds. They are fragile enough to melt in your hand, yet strong enough to carve valleys. They teach us patience, resilience, and the quiet strength of persistence. So when snow falls softly outside your window, or when you walk across the frozen surface of a lake, remember that you are witnessing the same forces that sculpted continents, the same cold hands that shaped mountains and recorded the breath of ancient skies. You are not simply seeing winter. You are touching eternity, and in that thought, there is both awe and comfort. As we leave behind the still silence of snow and ice, let us turn our attention to something that dances and flickers with color, a phenomenon born from storms of the sun, painted across the dark canvas of polar skies. The auroras, shimmering curtains of green, pink, and violet. In our next journey, we will follow the charged particles of space as they collide with our atmosphere, and discover how the northern and southern lights tell a story written in both science and wonder. Have you ever seen the sky come alive with color, ribbons of green, purple, and pink flowing like rivers of fire across the night? If you have, you know it feels otherworldly, almost as though the heavens themselves are breathing. But what are these lights, and why do they dance in such mysterious patterns? Could they be messages from the stars, whispers from the sun, or the silent voices of ancient myths? Auroras have long been seen as omens, mysteries, and wonders. Yet their true story lies in the meeting of Earth and space. Imagine standing in the frozen silence of a northern winter night. The air is crisp, the snow beneath your boots glows faintly in the moonlight. Above you, stars scatter endlessly. Yet suddenly, something shifts. A faint glow rises on the horizon. Soft at first, like the blush of dawn, but instead of fading, it strengthens, stretching across the sky in waves. Green curtains ripple, violet edges shimmer, and then the entire sky begins to move. The lights bend and twist, glowing brighter with each pulse. It feels as though you are standing inside a living painting, each moment fleeting, never to be repeated again. You hold your breath, knowing you are watching something ancient and timeless, something that connects the earth beneath your feet with the cosmos above. At the heart of auroras lies the sun. Our star does not simply shine. It constantly breathes streams of charged particles. This solar wind rushes outward at incredible speeds, carrying with it fragments of the sun's fiery heart. Most of the time, Earth's magnetic field acts like a shield, deflecting these particles safely away. But sometimes, when the solar wind grows fierce, particles slip through, funneling toward the poles. Here, in the thin upper atmosphere, a meeting occurs, a collision of cosmic scale. The charged particles strike atoms of oxygen and nitrogen high above the Earth. The energy from the collisions excites these atoms, lifting them into higher states. As they calm, they release their energy as light green shines brightest. Born from oxygen about 60 miles above the Earth, rarer purples and pinks come from nitrogen. At higher altitudes, red auroras glow, faint but haunting. The sky becomes a canvas where physics paints with invisible brushes of energy. The dance-like motion of the aurora is shaped by Earth's magnetic field. As solar particles stream in, they follow curved magnetic lines. The result is ribbons, arcs, and curtains of light, moving in response to both Earth and Sun. No two auroras are ever alike, each one shaped by the strength of the storm and the whispers of the wind from space. But auroras are not merely beautiful. They are signs of powerful space weather during solar storms. Bursts of energy called coronal mass ejections hurl billions of tons of plasma into space. If directed at Earth, these storms can disrupt satellites, power grids, and communications. The same lights that awe us are reminders of the sun's reach. Even from 93 million miles away, its storms touch our world for centuries. Auroras inspired myths and legends. The Vikings believed they were reflections of Valkyrie's armor, guiding warriors to Valhalla. in some Inuit traditions. They were spirits of ancestors playing in the sky. In other cultures, they were omens, either of great fortune or disaster. Before science explained them, auroras were sacred mysteries. Even now, knowing the physics, they still feel magical. Did you know that auroras are not confined to Earth alone? Jupiter and Saturn, with their powerful magnetic fields, also host breathtaking auroras. Even distant Uranus and Neptune have their own light shows. Each aurora across the solar system is a signature, a conversation between a planet and its star. What we see on Earth is part of a grand cosmic pattern, a reminder that planets are not silent rocks, but participants in the sun's vast symphony. What makes auroras so suspenseful is their unpredictability. Forecasts can guess when they might appear, but no one knows exactly when or how. You might wait for hours in the cold, only to see nothing, or suddenly, the sky may ignite in colors so vivid that they take your breath away. This uncertainty adds to their magic. Every aurora is a gift you cannot demand, only receive. There is also something deeply human about watching an aurora. People gather under the sky, strangers becoming companions, sharing gasps of wonder. In that moment, silence falls, broken only by the faint crackle some swear they hear in the air. Science explains the physics, but it cannot explain the way the heart swells when the sky begins to dance. Perhaps it is because auroras remind us that we are connected, that the same sun that warms us by day reaches us by night in light invisible until revealed, that Earth is not isolated but part of a cosmic exchange. Auroras are the sky's heartbeat made visible. They are the breath of the sun meeting the breath of the earth, colors flowing like rivers of light. They remind us that even darkness is alive, that the night is not empty, but full of whispers. Green curtains sway like ocean tides turned upside down. Purple edges flicker like brush strokes on velvet. Red glows linger like embers. Together they weave a tapestry no hand could create, each strand gone as soon as it appears. Each moment unique, unrepeatable, eternal in memory. Auroras tell us that beauty is born from collision, from storms and impacts, from energy released in sudden bursts. They show that chaos can give birth to wonder, that destruction and creation are never far apart. They are light born of struggle, and yet they move with grace, not violence, as if even conflict can be softened into art. To watch them is to feel small, but not insignificant. It is to remember that Earth is embraced, not alone, that the sky above is not a ceiling, but a bridge, a place where our world reaches out to touch the stars, and the stars reach back. Auroras are connection. In light, in silence, in awe, from the fiery colors of the aurora. We move now into something less visible, but just as powerful. The winds of the earth, invisible rivers of air that circle the globe. They shape weather, guide storms, and even carry seeds and whispers across continents. They are the unseen hand behind so much of what we feel every day. In our next module, we will drift into these invisible streams and discover how the atmosphere's great winds create patterns that govern the rhythm of our world. Have you ever stood still and felt the wind brush across your skin, that invisible presence that moves trees, shapes clouds, and carries whispers through the air? What is wind really, and why does it seem so alive? Is it simply moving air, or is it something greater, a vast, unseen river flowing across the earth? And have you ever wondered how the same wind that cools your face can also shape deserts, drive storms, and even steer the fate of civilizations? Winds are more than breezes. They are the pulse of the atmosphere. Picture yourself standing on a wide, open plain at dusk. The horizon stretches endlessly. Painted in gold and violet, you feel a gentle wind rise. At first, like a sigh, then stronger. It rustles the tall grasses, sets them swaying like waves in an ocean of green. High above, clouds drift slowly, their edges glowing with fading sunlight. The wind brushes your hair, carries the coolness of night approaching. It seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, a force without form, yet undeniable in its touch. You close your eyes, and in that moment, it feels as if the earth itself is breathing. Wind begins with the sun. When sunlight warms the earth unevenly, some places heat faster than others. Land warms quickly, oceans more slowly. This imbalance creates regions of high and low pressure. Air rushes from high pressure to low, and in that movement, wind is born. Yet, wind is far from simple. As the earth spins, the Coriolis effect bends these flows. Air that might travel straight instead curves, creating vast spirals of motion. This bending gives rise to trade winds, jet streams, and cyclones. The atmosphere is not chaotic, is a grand system of flowing rivers, constantly moving, constantly reshaping. At the equator, warm air rises, creating a belt of low pressure. As it ascends, it moves poleward, cooling, and sinking around 30 degrees latitude. This creates great cells of circulation, called Hadley cells. These cells, mirrored north and south, are the engines of tropical winds. They give birth to the trade winds, steady breezes that carried ancient ships across oceans. Civilizations rose and fell by their patterns, for trade, exploration, and survival depended on them. Farther north and south, other cells form the feral and polar cells. Together, they weave a global tapestry of circulation. At their boundaries lie jet streams, narrow bands of powerful winds high in the atmosphere. These streams steer weather systems, guiding storms, shaping rainfall, and influencing climates. A shift in the jet stream can mean drought for one land and floods for another. Even the smallest changes ripple across continents. But wind is not only vast, it is also intimate. Sea breezes form as land warms faster than water, pulling cool air inland. Mountain and valley winds rise and fall with the sun. Local breezes carry scents of flowers, smoke, or rain. Each gust is a messenger, telling us of distant conditions, unseen yet felt. Winds shape the very surface of the earth over deserts. They sculpt dunes into towering ridges and delicate patterns. They carry sand across oceans, dusting forests with minerals that feed life. In some places, winds polish stones, leaving behind fields of smooth, sculpted rock. Wind is both artist and transporter, restless and unceasing. There is suspense hidden in the power of winds. Hurricanes and cyclones are born of their motion. Spiraling giants fueled by ocean heat, their winds tearing across landscapes. Tornadoes, brief yet ferocious, spin from storm clouds to ground. Winds can destroy in minutes what took centuries to build. And yet, the same force spreads seeds, carries rain, and shapes climates. It is dual in nature, gentle caress, and unstoppable gale. Did you know that without wind, life on Earth would falter? Pollination would weaken, oceans would stagnate. Weather would cease its rhythm. The Earth would grow stagnant, divided between extremes. It is the ceaseless flow of wind that distributes heat and moisture, that prevents deserts from spreading endlessly, that connects one side of the planet to the other, invisibly yet vitally, on even larger scales. Winds extend into space. The solar wind from the sun streams endlessly outward. It shapes Earth's magnetic field, drives auroras, and sculpts the very boundaries of our solar system. Wind is not just an earthly phenomenon. It is a cosmic one. Every star breathes winds. Every planet feels their touch. The winds you feel on your cheek are part of a universal rhythm. Wind is the Earth's voice. It whispers through grass, howls through canyons, sighs across seas. It is invisible, yet it moves mountains of sand. It is shapeless, yet it carves shapes into stone. Wind is memory carried on the air, the scent of rain from miles away, the fragrance of flowers across a meadow, the salt of oceans lingering far inland. Every breeze is a reminder that nothing is isolated, that air moves endlessly, connecting us across distance. Wind is both beginning and end. It carries the seeds of trees, scattering futures. It carries storms, bringing both destruction and renewal. It is the breath of earth, the rhythm that never ceases. Even when the world seems still, air is always in motion, flowing, circling, touching everything, everywhere. To feel the wind is to be reminded of our place, that we are not separate from Earth's cycles, but participants in them. Our first breath at birth is drawn from these same currents. Our last breath released back into them. Wind is continuity, eternity, presence, and in its movement there is both wildness and peace. So when you feel the wind on your face, pause, close your eyes, and listen. You are hearing the earth itself, not in words, but in whispers, not in shouts, but in rhythms. Wind speaks softly, but endlessly, from the invisible currents of wind. Let us now turn to the waters they guide. For as air moves across oceans, it pushes great currents, shaping climates and carrying warmth. These ocean currents are the hidden engines of the planet, slow, powerful rivers that flow beneath the surface. They connect continents, nurture life, and even determine the fate of civilizations. In our next journey, we will dive beneath the waves and explore the mysteries of the great ocean currents, Earth's silent circulatory system. Have you ever stood on the shore and watched the ocean waves, wondering what lies beneath their endless rhythm? What if I told you that beneath the surface, invisible rivers flow, not small streams, but vast highways of water, moving with power greater than all the world's rivers combined? These currents are hidden, silent, yet they control the fate of climates, the survival of species, and the very balance of our planet. Why does one current bring warmth to distant lands, while another plunges cold waters into the deep? And how is it that the oceans breathe, circulate, and even regulate the heartbeat of Earth itself? Tonight, we journey into the mysterious world of ocean currents, the silent arteries of the planet. Imagine standing on a cliff overlooking the sea at night. The moon casts silver paths across the water. The surface seems calm, but you sense an unseen power beneath. Far below, massive rivers are flowing, currents that stretch across thousands of miles. They move steadily, silently, pushing warmth and cold through the oceans. They do not roar like storms, they whisper, a deep and patient motion, carrying energy across centuries. Every wave that touches the shore, every breeze that carries salt, is tied to these hidden flows. It is as if the planet has veins, and in them the ocean itself circulates, pumping life, moving energy, balancing extremes. Ocean currents are the great movers of Earth's waters. They are not random, but guided by temperature, salinity, wind, and the spinning of the planet. Together, they create a global conveyor belt known as the thermaline circulation, a system that moves heat, nutrients, and life itself around the globe. At the equator, the sun warms surface waters. This warm water expands, becomes lighter, and spreads outward. Meanwhile, at the poles, cold water sinks, denser and heavier. These rising and sinking motions drive a cycle that connects every ocean. A single drop of water could take hundreds, even thousands of years to complete its journey. Imagine that invisible path stretching through the centuries, carrying heat and memory across the world. The Gulf Stream is one of the most famous currents. It begins in the tropics, carrying warm waters northward across the Atlantic. It is so powerful that it moves more water than all rivers on Earth combined. When it reaches Europe, it releases warmth into the air. Without it, winters there would be far harsher. This single current shapes the climate of entire continents. It is no exaggeration to say that civilizations have flourished in its flow. But the ocean is not one stream, it is many. The Pacific has its Kuroshio and California currents. The Indian Ocean, its monsoon-driven flows. The Southern Ocean circles Antarctica, a great ring of water that binds the seas together. Each current plays its part, transporting heat, nutrients, and salt together. They weave a global fabric of balance. Currents are not only about heat, they carry life. Nutrients from the deep are lifted to the surface by upwellings. These nutrients feed plankton, the foundation of ocean food webs. Fisheries thrive where upwellings rise. Entire ecosystems bloom because of these invisible motions. Without currents, much of the ocean would be barren. It is these silent rivers that feed whales, fish, seabirds, and ultimately us. But, like all forces of Earth, currents hold suspense. What happens if they slow or shift? Scientists warn of changes already underway as polar ice melts. Freshwater enters the oceans, disrupting salinity. If the great conveyor belt weakens, heat may no longer travel north. This could bring harsher winters to Europe, rising seas to coasts, droughts to the tropics. The balance of climates depends on these flows. A shift in currents could reshape life on Earth in ways we cannot yet predict. Currents also shape human history. Ancient sailors learned to ride them, crossing oceans long before compasses. The trade winds and their linked currents carried explorers, goods, and cultures. They enabled discovery, migration, and sometimes conquest. The ocean's invisible highways were humanity's first global networks. Even today, Shipping lanes still follow the paths of currents. Modern life, too, is tied to these flows. If you could see the oceans from above, not as static blue, but alive with moving rivers, you would see JR's vast spirals of water circling in each ocean. The North Atlantic Gyre, the South Pacific Gyre, great whirling systems that trap heat and sometimes even debris. Yes, even the floating islands of plastic we hear about are gathered by these currents, proof of their power to collect, to carry, and to hold. Currents remind us that time in the ocean is different. A single motion may take decades to complete. A single circulation may span millennia. The waters of today carry the fingerprints of ancient climates, frozen in their temperatures, their salinities, their layers. The ocean is memory, and currents are the threads that weave that memory together, and still they move silently. Unseen, unlike winds, we cannot feel them easily. We only glimpse their presence in drifting debris, in migrating animals, in satellites that trace sea surface heights. But make no mistake, their power is vast. Without currents, Earth would be unrecognizable, an unbalanced world of extremes. Hot equators and frozen poles, barren seas and unstable climates. It is currents that keep the planet breathing evenly. Currents are the pulse of the ocean. They move without sound, without end, carrying warmth like blood through arteries, carrying nutrients like lifeblood to cells. The earth itself has a heart, and it beats in these flows. Imagine drifting with a current, unseen by land, days turning to nights, nights to days, the water around you never still, always in motion, guided by invisible hands. A path older than mountains, stronger than storms. A journey across centuries. Currents are storytellers. They whisper of ancient climates. They carry the ashes of volcanoes, the dust of deserts, the melt of glaciers. They link one shore to another, even when continents believe themselves separate. The sea knows otherwise. There is wonder in their patience. There is suspense in their fragility. A shift, a slowdown, a break in the chain, and the world would feel it. For every current is not just water, but balance, not just motion, but memory. So next time you stand by the ocean, remember the unseen rivers beneath your feet, the currents that carry life, warmth, and time itself, silent, eternal, always flowing, the breath of the sea, the heartbeat of the planet. From the hidden currents beneath the sea, we rise again to the vast stages where Earth's elements meet. For while oceans move silently, the skies above can erupt suddenly. Lightning and storms crack open the night, revealing the fierce power of nature. What is lightning, and why does it strike? Why do storms roar and twist with such fury? In our next journey, we will drift into the mystery of storms and lightning, the sudden sparks of Earth's restless atmosphere. Have you ever lain awake at night, the air heavy, the silence deep, and then suddenly the sky shatters with a flash? A single streak of light racing across the heavens, followed by the rolling voice of thunder that seems to shake the earth itself. Why does the sky crack open in such violent beauty? What force charges the clouds until they explode with light? And how is it that storms, though fierce and frightening, also carry the seeds of renewal tonight? We venture into the mystery of lightning and storms, the sparks in the sky that remind us of the raw electric pulse of our living planet. Picture yourself standing at a window on a warm summer night. The air outside feels restless, thick with moisture, almost alive. Dark clouds gather like curtains being drawn across the stage of the heavens. A sudden breeze stirs the leaves, and in that moment the world holds its breath. Then it happens. Light rips across the horizon. For just an instant, the landscape is lit as bright as day. Moments later, thunder follows, rolling low and deep, echoing across valleys and rooftops. The storm has arrived, bringing with it power, mystery, and a strange sense of cleansing. Though storms roar, they also soothe, for when the rain finally falls, it washes the world, and when the lightning fades, it leaves behind a renewed calm. At its core, lightning is electricity. It begins in storm clouds, towering structures that rise miles into the sky. Inside these clouds, warm air rises and cool air sinks, creating turbulence. Moisture condenses into droplets and ice crystals, colliding again and again. With each collision, tiny charges are exchanged, positive and negative. Gradually, the cloud becomes an immense battery, storing energy in silence. The top of the cloud grows positively charged. The bottom becomes negative. The ground below feels the pull, responding with its own positive charge. The tension builds, invisible but immense, and then, when the pressure is too great, the balance breaks. A bolt of lightning leaps from cloud to ground, or from one cloud to another. It travels faster than the blink of an eye, hotter than the surface of the sun, and in that instant, the sky is split with fire. Lightning comes in many forms. Cloud to ground strikes are the most familiar. But most lightning dances within the clouds themselves, unseen except for their flashes. Sometimes it leaps from cloud to cloud, stitching the sky with jagged threads. There is even sheet lightning, where the whole horizon glows, as if veiled by light. And far above storms, in the thin upper atmosphere, rare phenomena occur: sprites, elves, and blue jets, ethereal bursts of light that appear like ghosts of the storm. For centuries, they were whispered of by pilots, dismissed as illusions, until science confirmed their reality. Thunder is lightning's voice. When the bolt tears through the air, it heats it instantly to extreme temperatures. The air expands with explosive force, creating a shockwave. We hear it as thunder, rolling and echoing through the sky. Its distance from the flash can be measured every 5 seconds. Between lightning and thunder marks about a mile. It is the sound of energy released, the earth acknowledging the strike. Storms are more than lightning, of course. They are living systems of heat, moisture, and motion. Thunderstorms begin when warm, moist air rises rapidly. As it lifts, it cools, condenses. The higher they climb, the more powerful the storm. Add in strong winds, rotation, or temperature differences, and storms grow into supercells. These are the giants of the sky, capable of spawning tornadoes, hail, and floods. But storms are not only destructive, they are essential. Lightning fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere, transforming it into compounds that plants can use. Without storms, the soil would lack one of its vital nutrients. Rain from storms replenishes rivers, cleanses the air, and feeds crops. The drama of lightning and thunder is not chaos, but part of the planet's rhythm, a way the earth balances heat, energy, and life. Yet storms hold suspense. For as the climate warms, their patterns may shift. Some regions may face fiercer storms, others longer droughts. Lightning strikes could increase, sparking wildfires in vulnerable lands. What has always been a cycle of balance may begin to tilt, and humanity must listen to these warnings in the thunder. For millennia, humans have looked to storms with awe. In myths and legends, thunder was the voice of gods. Zeus hurling bolts from Olympus, Thor striking with his hammer, Indra commanding rains. Cultures across the world saw lightning as divine fire. Even now, standing beneath the storm, one can feel its spiritual weight. It is a force beyond us, yet deeply tied to us. Science may explain the mechanics, but the experience remains primal. The sudden flash, the rolling thunder, the scent of ozone in the rain. Storms remind us of power we cannot control, and in that reminder there is humility. Lightning is the handwriting of the sky, each bolt a fleeting message, written in fire, erased in silence. Storms are the earth exhaling, the heavens stirring, the planet releasing its held breath. There is suspense in every storm, a build-up, a pause, a sudden break, like a symphony swelling toward its crescendo and then crashing into sound and light. But even in their violence, storms carry peace, for after the clash comes calm, after the roar comes quiet. Think of the way rain taps against windows, the way thunder rolls like a drum in the distance. These sounds cradle us. They remind us of nature's constancy, that even in turmoil there is pattern, even in chaos there is rhythm. Lightning also connects us to time. The same forces that sparked in modern skies sparked long before humans looked up. Ancient forests, dinosaurs, endless ages past, they too knew storms. The crack of thunder over primeval oceans, the flicker of lightning over mountains still forming. To watch a storm is to witness continuity, a thread of energy stretching through all of history. So when the next storm comes, when the sky darkens and the heavens split open with light, perhaps you can listen not with fear, but with wonder, knowing that within the storm is nourishment for the earth, a reminder of balance, and a glimpse of the universe's untamed beauty. As the storm subsides and the sky clears, the world feels renewed. The rain has fallen, the lightning has passed, the air is fresh with possibility. But storms are not the only wonders of water. For in the quiet, after chaos, comes the gentle artistry of snow. Crystals forming in silence, drifting from the sky, shaping landscapes with their delicate touch. In our next chapter, we will drift into the world of snow and ice, the frozen whispers of weather. Have you ever stood outside on a winter night, watching the first flakes of snow drift silently from the sky, each flake unique, delicate, yet part of a storm that can blanket entire cities? Why does water, the simplest of substances, transform into such intricate crystals? How can something so soft and silent hold such power, capable of shaping landscapes, freezing oceans, and even deciding the fate of civilizations? And why does snow, for all its chill, feel so strangely comforting? Tonight, we wander into the frozen realm of weather, into the mysteries of snow and ice, the quiet architects of our planet's surface, the frozen whispers that tell the story of Earth's patience. Imagine walking along a snowy path beneath a pale winter moon. The world feels hushed as if wrapped in a thick blanket of silence. Each footstep crunches softly, the sound carried into stillness. The trees bow under the weight of snow, their branches jeweled with frost. The air is crisp, so cold that it stings your lungs, yet refreshing, almost purifying. Above, countless flakes drift lazily down, each reflecting the moonlight. It is as though the stars themselves are falling, settling gently onto the earth. Snow has a way of transforming the ordinary into the magical. The familiar streets, the empty fields, the rooftops and fences all remade in white. And beneath it all, unseen but powerful, ice spreads its quiet influence, holding lakes in stillness, locking rivers, shaping glaciers that carve valleys across time. Snow begins with something almost invisible, a speck of dust, a grain of salt, a tiny particle floating in the atmosphere. When cold air grips the moisture around it, water vapor begins to freeze onto the speck. Layer by layer, the crystal grows, branching outward into delicate shapes. Temperature and humidity decide its form. Sometimes thin plates, sometimes long needles, sometimes perfect six-sided stars. No two flakes are exactly alike, for the path each crystal takes through the sky is unique. This is why snow is often called a miracle of repetition without repetition. Snowflakes fall when clouds heavy with frozen crystals can no longer hold them. Together, they drift to earth, piling into blankets of snow. A single storm can drop billions of flakes, each fragile, yet together they reshape landscapes, covering fields, muffling cities, burying mountains in silence. But snow is only part of the frozen story. Ice, its sibling, is equally powerful. When water freezes, it expands. Rivers crack their banks. Roads break apart. Mountains fracture. Glaciers form as layers of snow compress over centuries. The weight above squeezes the snow below, transforming it into solid ice. These glaciers are rivers of frozen time, moving slowly, carving valleys, grinding rock into powder. Entire continents bear their marks. The Great Lakes, fjords, and plains were all sculpted by ice. The science of snow and ice is also the science of climate. Snow reflects sunlight, cooling the earth. Ice caps at the poles act as mirrors, bouncing solar energy back into space. But when ice melts, darker oceans and land absorb more heat. This feedback loop accelerates warming. So snow and ice are not just passive, they are regulators of the planet's temperature. A shifting balance between freeze and thaw affects every living thing. There is suspense here, for ice records history. Deep within glaciers lie bubbles of ancient air, tiny prisons holding the atmosphere of centuries past. Scientists drill ice cores to unlock these frozen archives. Within them, we see the fingerprints of ancient climates. We learn of past ice ages, of warming periods, of volcanic eruptions that dimmed the sun. The ice remembers what we cannot. It is the diary of the planet, written in frost. Snow also shapes life in forests. Snow insulates the soil, protecting roots from deadly cold. Animals burrow into it, finding shelter from icy winds in the Arctic. Polar bears walk across frozen seas to hunt. Caribou paw through snow to reach light. Snow is not just frozen water, is habitat, a quiet stage upon which life depends. Yet snow can also be perilous. Avalanches sweep down mountains with terrifying speed. Blizzards blind and bury, ice storms coat trees and power lines, bringing weight that snaps them like twigs. For all its beauty, snow is a force to be respected. Its silence hides immense power, and like all weather, snow carries mystery. Why do some years bring heavy snows, while others bring little? Why do some flakes form delicate stars, while others gather as simple clumps? Even now, scientists marvel at the physics of freezing. The smallest crystal holds secrets of the largest glaciers. But beyond the mechanics lies the feeling. Snow transforms perception. It turns noise into hush, movement into stillness. It makes the familiar world new. There is science in its structure, yes, but also poetry in its silence. Snow is silence made visible. It drifts gently, yet carries the weight of centuries. Each flake a fragile star, a frozen whisper, a fleeting masterpiece. To walk in snow is to step into another world, a place where sound is softened, where edges blur, where the ordinary wears a crown of white, and the night glows with reflected light. Ice is the memory of water. It holds stillness where once there was motion. It carves, sculpts, preserves. It is the hand of time, pressing patiently against stone, reminding us that change can be slow, yet unstoppable. There is suspense in the frozen world, the creak of a glacier as it shifts, the sudden crack of ice across a lake, the heavy silence before an avalanche. Moments when stillness becomes movement, and the frozen breath of the earth reminds us of its strength. Yet there is also peace, the soft fall of snow at night, the glitter of frost at dawn, the quiet beauty of icicles catching the sun. These frozen wonders offer us reflection. They invite us to pause, to listen, to remember that even in coldness there can be comfort, that even in stillness there is life. Snow and ice are not only cold, they are clarity. They show us the essence of water, the patience of time, the resilience of life, and the artistry of the planet itself. As the snow falls and the ice holds the world in stillness, we begin to sense how deeply the frozen realm connects to time. But not all of Earth's rhythms are quiet. Some are vast and sweeping, guided not by flakes or ice, but by the turning of the planet itself, the rising and setting of the sun, the tilting of seasons, the great clockwork of Earth's orbit. In our next journey, we drift into the mystery of the seasons, the soft rhythms of light and shadow that guide our lives. Have you ever wondered why the days stretch long in summer and shrink short in winter? Why the sun climbs high in one season and lingers low in another? Or why entire regions of the planet experience months of endless day, while others sink into months of endless night? The rhythm of seasons seems so natural, so ordinary, that we often forget its mystery. What hidden tilt, what quiet clockwork guides this great dance of warmth and cold? And how have the turning seasons shaped the lives of every creature, every forest, every ocean current, even the rise and fall of civilizations? Tonight, we will journey into the heart of Earth's rhythm, exploring how the sun and seasons weave the fabric of time. Imagine sitting on a quiet hilltop, watching the horizon at dawn. The first light creeps gently over the edge of the world, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose. The air is cool, still carrying the chill of night. But you can feel warmth approaching. Hours later, the sun stands tall, casting sharp shadows, filling the world with brilliance. But as months pass, you notice the difference. The same sun now rises later, lower, its light slanting, soft and pale. The days shorten, the shadows lengthen, the air grows colder. It is not just a change of temperature, but a change of mood, a turning of the planet's great page. Seasons are the slow heartbeat of Earth, each one a chapter in the story of time. The secret of seasons lies not in distance from the sun, but in tilt. Earth spins on an axis, an imaginary line from pole to pole. But that axis is tilted about 23.5 degrees. This tilt is the quiet reason for winter and summer, for long days and short nights. As Earth orbits the sun, different hemispheres lean toward or away from the light. When the north tilts forward, it basks in summer, while the south chills in winter. Half a year later, the balance reverses. Thus, the planet breathes in cycles of warmth and cold. At the equator, sunlight is nearly constant. Days and nights remain almost equal throughout the year. But closer to the poles, the difference grows dramatic. Here, daylight may vanish for months, replaced by twilight and night. Or the sun may circle the horizon endlessly, never fully setting. These extremes shape ecosystems uniquely suited to their rhythms. Polar bears hunt on endless days, while owls wait in endless nights. The tilt of Earth has sculpted the very pattern of life. Plants bloom in spring, thrive in summer, and retreat in autumn. Animals migrate, breed, and hibernate in time with the shifting light. Even humans, long before calendars, felt the sun's pattern deeply. Ancient monuments, like Stonehenge, aligned with marking the longest and shortest days, guiding farming and ritual. Civilizations rose and fell by reading the sky, for when to plant and when to harvest depended on the sun's path. But there is suspense in this balance, for Earth's tilt itself is not fixed. Over thousands of years, it wobbles slightly. This wobble, along with changes in orbit, drives great climate shifts known as ice ages. It is a reminder that the seasons we know today are but one version of Earth's rhythm. The planet's dance has changed before and will change again. Seasons also drive the great circulations of air and water. Warm summers heat oceans, fueling storms. Cold winters lock moisture into ice. Monsoons rise from seasonal heating, bringing rains that sustain billions. The tilt of the planet may seem simple, but its effects ripple through every system of Earth. Have you ever noticed how the sun feels different in autumn compared to spring? It is not only your imagination. The angle of light changes how it warms the ground, how it paints colors in the sky. The golden sunsets of autumn, the pale blues of winter, the sharp brightness of summer, all are gifts of Earth's tilt. Even the quality of shadows changes, stretching and shrinking in harmony with the seasons. And then there are the equinoxes and solstices, moments when the balance tips. The solstices mark the longest and shortest days. The equinoxes bring equal day and night across cultures. These moments have been celebrated as thresholds, points where time itself seems to pause before moving forward again. They remind us that the planet moves with a rhythm, and that rhythm holds us all, but seasons are not uniform. While one part of the world feels winter, another feels summer. While one continent celebrates spring blooms, another waits for autumn's harvest. Seasons weave the planet into a patchwork of contrasts. They link us even in our differences, for we all share the same tilted planet. Spinning beneath the same sun, seasons are the poetry of time. They are not written in words, but in light and shadow, warmth and chill, birth and rest. Spring is the planet awakening, the whisper of green shoots breaking through soil, the return of birdsong, the promise of renewal. Summer is the planet in full breath, the long days, the deep warmth, the abundance of life basking in golden light. Autumn is the planet exhaling, the turning of leaves, the slow retreat of energy, the beauty of endings made visible. Winter is the planet at rest, the long nights, the quiet silence, the world in stillness, preparing to begin again. There is suspense in each season's arrival, the first frost, the first blossom, the first long night. Each moment marks a turning, a reminder that time is never still, and yet there is comfort in their constancy. No matter what changes, the seasons return. They are the oldest clock we know, the most reliable rhythm we share. To watch the seasons is to feel connected to the earth beneath your feet, to the sky above, to the countless generations who lived by the same cycles, the same rising sun, the same lengthening shadows, the same shift of warmth to cold. Seasons remind us that we too are part of the turning. We rise, we flourish, we rest, we are written into the rhythm of the world. As the seasons turn, guided by Earth's tilt and orbit, we feel the passage of time woven into our very lives. But the rhythm of weather is not only about light and shadow. It is also about patterns that stretch beyond years, beyond generations, the long cycles of climate, the differences between a storm today and the patterns that shape centuries. In our next chapter, we drift into the difference between weather and climate, the short breath of a storm versus the long memory of the earth. Have you ever noticed how a storm passes in a single night, but its echo lingers in your memory? Or wondered why some winters are colder than others? Why some summers scorch hotter? Why rainfall shifts mysteriously across years? What makes today's weather so fleeting, yet climate so enduring? The clouds above you may change by the hour, but behind those changes, a deeper rhythm unfolds. A rhythm that whispers not in days or weeks, but in decades and centuries. What is the difference between the short breath of weather and the long memory of climate? And why does understanding this difference matter not only for scientists, but for all of us, drifting beneath the same sky? Picture yourself standing by a lake at twilight. The air is calm, the water smooth, the sky painted soft lavender by the setting sun. But then, almost without warning, a breeze stirs, rippling the surface. Clouds gather on the horizon, rolling in like quiet giants. Raindrops begin to fall. First a scatter, then a downpour. The storm roaring with life, yet as quickly as it came, it begins to fade. The storm drifts away, leaving the earth refreshed, the lake glistening with silver light. This is weather, a fleeting moment, a passing breath, a story told in hours. But imagine now the same lake across years, the shoreline shrinking in drought, swelling in floods, the trees growing or retreating with changing temperatures. This is climate, the memory of countless storms and calms. A story written not in moments, but in centuries. Weather is the short breath of the atmosphere. It is the conditions you feel today, tomorrow. This week, the sun warming your skin, the rain soaking the ground, the snow crunching under your boots. It is immediate, tangible, and ever-changing, driven by air pressure, humidity, temperature, and wind. Weather is chaotic because it is local and small-scale. A shift in ocean temperature, a gust of wind, a passing cloud can change everything in hours. Climate, by contrast, is the long memory of these breaths. It is the average, the pattern, the rhythm, measured not in hours or days, but in decades and centuries. Where weather is a page, climate is the book. Scientists define climate as the typical conditions of a region over 30 years or more. It tells you not what the weather will be tomorrow, but what it will likely be in July. Not the rain of a single storm, but the expectation of a rainy season. Imagine weather as the mood of the planet, one day joyful, another day stormy, restless, or calm. Climate, however, is the personality. It reveals whether a place is generally sunny, rainy, humid, or dry, and just like moods shift quickly, while personality remains steady. Weather changes daily, but climate changes slowly. Yet here lies suspense. Climate does change, but on scales so vast they often escape notice until their consequences arrive. The ice ages were shaped by climate shifts. Entire ecosystems rose and fell with glacial advance and retreat. Civilizations flourished in gentle climates and faltered. Even the collapse of ancient societies, like the Maya or Mesopotamians, has been tied to climate's long memory. The lesson is simple but profound. Weather touches us today, but climate shapes the fate of generations. Weather forecasting is like reading a momentary pulse. We can predict storms days ahead, track hurricanes across oceans, but climate prediction is like reading the heartbeat of the planet. It requires understanding oceans, ice caps, forests, and even volcanic eruptions. For example, El Niño, a pattern of warming in the Pacific Ocean, shifts weather across the globe. Some regions flood, others dry. But this is not just weather, it is climate breathing on a rhythm of years. Even longer cycles, like the wobble of Earth's orbit, alter climate over centuries. Consider rainfall. One storm can flood a street, but decades of storms shape a desert into grassland or forest. Consider temperature. One cold night may freeze rivers, but centuries of cold build glaciers. Climate is the sum of countless weathers, each small breath woven into a long story, and still there is suspense. For our world now faces a moment where weather and climate converge in unsettling ways. Heat waves are growing longer, storms more intense, rainfall less predictable. What was once rare is becoming familiar. The long memory of climate is being rewritten by human hands. Yet within this suspense is also curiosity and wonder. For in studying these patterns, we glimpse how delicate and interconnected our world truly is. But let us not rush too quickly to worry, for tonight, as we rest, let us marvel at the beauty of distinction. The storm that passes, the breeze that shifts, the snow that melts whole are reminders of weather. The forests, deserts, ice caps, and oceans all are reminders of climate. Together they weave the story of Earth's sky, both fleeting and eternal. Weather is the song of the moment. It is the laughter of raindrops against windows, the thunder rolling like distant drums, the hush of snow blanketing the world. It is intimate, immediate, alive. But climate is the symphony that holds all those notes. It is the melody that lingers across centuries, the harmony that echoes beyond lifetimes. One storm may feel powerful, but it is a single note in the grand orchestra of climate. There is beauty in both, the surprise of today's weather, the unpredictability of clouds and winds, and the constancy of climate, the knowledge that summer will return, winter will arrive, and seasons will turn together. They remind us of balance, that the world is made of moments and memories, of the fleeting and the enduring, the short breath and the long memory. To watch the weather is to marvel at the day. To understand climate is to marvel at the age, and to rest beneath the sky is to know we are part of both. We breathe in rhythm with weather's pulse. We live in rhythm with climate's heartbeat, and both remind us that we are woven into the vast, slow-turning story of the earth. As we drift between weather's breath and climate's memory, we glimpse the delicate balance of short and long, fleeting and enduring. But there are forces beyond even these cycles, hidden engines deep within the oceans, where currents flow like rivers across the globe. These waters, warm and cold, guide storms, shape winds, and carry the memory of climates through centuries. In our next journey, we will dive beneath the waves, into the silent highways of the Sitha, great ocean currents that steer the destiny of weather and climate alike. Have you ever wondered what lies beneath the waves, beyond the reach of sunlight? Have you thought of the oceans not as empty, but as living rivers flowing across the planet? Invisible highways that move slowly, silently, shaping storms above, guiding climates across continents. What if the weather you feel tonight, the breeze through your window, the gentle rain, the calm or restless air, was set in motion years ago by waters thousands of miles away? The oceans are more than vast blue expanses. They are the lungs and veins of Earth, and within them are currents, rivers of water that never stop moving. Let us follow them and discover how these hidden streams quietly decide the fate of weather and of life itself. Picture yourself standing on a moonlit shore. The waves lap softly at your feet, cool and rhythmic. You hear the whisper of water folding and unfolding, as though the ocean itself is breathing. Now, imagine slipping beneath that silver surface, down past the swaying kelp, past the darting fish, deeper and deeper into the twilight. The light fades, the water grows heavy, and yet movement surrounds you. You sense a vast current pulling, a force both silent and unstoppable, like a great river flowing through the hidden heart of the sea. This current is not random, not chaotic. It is part of a vast design, connecting oceans to one another, linking equator to pole, carrying warmth, carrying cold, carrying life. Though you cannot see it from the shore, every tide, every breeze, every storm above is whispered into being by these rivers below. Ocean currents are the hidden arteries of our planet. They are streams of water that move through the seas like invisible highways, unlike surface waves, which are stirred by the wind. These currents travel immense distances, guided by heat, salt, and Earth's rotation together. They form what scientists call the global conveyor belt, a circulation system that unites all the oceans into one vast body. At the equator, the sun beats down, warming the surface waters. These waters expand, grow lighter, and drift outward. Meanwhile, at the poles, waters cool and grow heavy, sinking into the depths. This simple dance of warm rising and cold sinking creates powerful flows. But there is more. Salt also shapes these rivers. When seawater freezes into ice, salt is left behind, making the surrounding water denser. That denser water sinks, pulling more water behind it. Thus, heat and salt together, thermaline circulation, drive the great conveyor of the sea. Imagine this system as a slow but steady breath. Warm water rises in the tropics, travels across oceans, cools at the poles, and sinks. Then, deep currents return the cold water toward the equator, completing the loop. This circulation moves not in days, but in centuries. One full loop of the conveyor can take 1,000 years, yet its effect touches every life on Earth. Consider the Gulf Stream, a powerful current that flows from the Gulf of Mexico across the Atlantic. It carries warmth toward Europe. Without it, much of northern Europe would be locked in ice. The Gulf Stream is why London has milder winters than other places at the same latitude. It is a river of heat, invisible but vital. Currents also drive monsoons. They feed rains to crops, guide hurricanes, and carry nutrients that sustain entire ecosystems. When deep waters rise to the surface in upwelling, they bring minerals that feed plankton, the foundation of the food chain. Without these hidden rivers, much of the ocean would be barren. Currents give life not only to fish and whales, but to forests on land, to rains that water fields, to winds that shape coasts. And then there is suspense. For these currents, so steady, so ancient, are not unbreakable. Scientists watch them carefully, because melting ice, warming seas, and shifting winds could weaken the conveyor. If it falters, the effects could ripple across the globe. Storms more violent, rains shifting, droughts lengthening. The long memory of climate written in ice and current could turn a new and unpredictable page. Did you know that the ocean stores more heat than the atmosphere ever could? That the upper 2 meters of ocean hold as much heat as the entire air above the earth? That means the oceans are the great keepers of memory. When they shift, the entire world follows. And every storm that brushes your window, every snowflake, every summer's day each is born, in part, from these hidden, ceaseless rivers of the sea. The ocean is not silent. It sings in rhythms too deep for human ears. It breathes in currents, exhaling warmth, inhaling cold. It dreams in centuries where we live in days. Its hidden rivers are not just streams of water. They are threads in the tapestry of life. Each current a whisper that ties equator to pole, storm to calm, summer to winter. Think of the Gulf Stream as a warm hand stretched across the Atlantic. Think of the Antarctic current as a belt encircling the Earth. Think of the deep waters as ancient travelers, carrying memories of ice ages and sunlit days. And in their flow, imagine the quiet truth that we are not separate from this movement. We drink the rains they carry. We breathe the air they cool. We eat the harvests they nourish. The tides are in our blood, the salt of the sea in our veins. And as these rivers flow, so too does our story. For the ocean currents are not only the breadth of earth, they are the lullabies that cradle us. The endless song that rocks the planet gently in its sleep as we leave the deep highways of the sea. We rise once more toward the surface, where the winds catch the waves, where the currents touch the air, for it is here, in the meeting of ocean and atmosphere, that storms are born. Gentle rains and roaring hurricanes alike rise from this marriage of water and wind. And so, in our next chapter, we will explore storms themselves, the tempests that shake the skies, the calm that follows, and the strange beauty that lies within their power. Have you ever felt the air shift just before a storm arrives? That strange stillness, where birds go quiet and the world seems to hold its breath. Have you watched the horizon darken, the clouds swelling like mountains of shadow, and wondered what secret forces are gathering above your head? Storms are among the most dramatic expressions of weather, fierce, unpredictable, yet strangely beautiful. But beneath the thunder, beneath the lightning, there is order, there is science, ancient and precise, weaving wind, heat, and water into spectacle. So what truly gives birth to a storm? And how can something so powerful, so destructive, also hold within it a rhythm that sustains life on Earth? Picture yourself standing in an open field. The sky overhead is heavy, clouds stacked layer upon layer, their edges glowing faintly in the fading light. The air feels charged, thick, as if the very atmosphere has grown restless. A distant rumble echoes, rolling across the horizon. The wind stirs, cool at first, then stronger, tugging at your clothes, bending the grass. The first drops of rain fall, fat and heavy, darkening the soil, and then, like a drumbeat, the storm arrives. Lightning flashes, illuminating the sky for a heartbeat. Thunder follows, shaking the earth. The storm is alive, untamed, yet it follows rules. Invisible patterns of heat, air, and pressure that scientists have slowly unraveled. As you watch the tempest unfold, you may feel both fear and awe, but beneath that roar, there is a story waiting to be told. Storms are born from imbalance. They begin when warm, moist air meets cooler, drier air. The warmth rises, carrying water vapor with it. As the vapor climbs higher into cooler layers of the atmosphere, it condenses into clouds, and with condensation comes release. Heat is freed into the air. That released heat makes the air rise faster, pulling more warm air upward. This cycle builds upon itself, fueling the storm. Thunderstorms are the most common type. They form towering cumulonimbus clouds that can stretch miles into the sky. Inside them, air currents swirl violently, some rising, some sinking like invisible elevators. Rain forms, hailstones tumble, lightning flashes. A single thunderstorm can contain more energy than an atomic bomb. Yet most pass quietly within an hour, leaving behind only damp earth and a freshened breeze. But sometimes storms grow beyond thunderstorms. When conditions align, they evolve into hurricanes, cyclones, or typhoons, different names for the same phenomenon. These are vast engines of heat, born over warm oceans, where water evaporates endlessly into the sky. The rising vapor fuels a cycle of rotation, tightened by Earth's spin. The result is a spiraling storm that can stretch hundreds of miles across. At its center lies the eye, eerily calm, while walls of thunder rage around it. Hurricanes are paradoxes, destroyers of cities, yet vital in distributing Earth's heat. They carry warmth from the tropics toward the poles, balancing the planet's climate. Lightning, too, is part of this mystery. It is the sudden release of electrical charge. Inside a storm, particles of ice and water collide. Separating charges, the top of the cloud becomes positively charged, the bottom negatively charged. The imbalance grows until it can no longer be contained. A bolt strikes, leaping through the air in a brilliant arc. The temperature of lightning can reach 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And yet, this fierce display also fixes nitrogen in the air, making it usable for plants, feeding the chain of life. Tornadoes are another face of storms, born from supercells. These are twisting columns of air that descend from the sky like restless fingers. Spinning at terrifying speeds, they carve paths across land. Yet, even here, in destruction, there is structure. They follow gradients of pressure and temperature. Their spirals are equations written in air. Storms may seem chaotic, but they are expressions of balance. Nature correcting imbalances of heat, pressure, and motion. They can destroy, yes, but they also sustain. They bring rain to parched lands, stir oceans, fertilize soil, cleanse the air. Without storms, Earth would stagnate. Life itself owes much to their restless fury. And then comes suspense, because as our world warms, storms too are changing. Hurricanes grow stronger, rains heavier, droughts longer. Scientists trace these shifts back to warmer seas, rising humidity, and altered winds. The storms of tomorrow may not resemble those of yesterday, and though they frighten us, they also remind us of our place. Small creatures under vast skies, yet capable of listening, learning, preparing. In every rumble of thunder, there is a lesson. In every flash of lightning, a truth, that chaos is never without cause, and beauty never without cost. A storm is the earth's heartbeat made visible. It is the sky exhaling, the atmosphere speaking in thunderous syllables. It is raw, powerful, yet strangely tender. For though it roars, it also gives rain that nourishes, winds that cool, clouds that shade. Even destruction clears paths for new life. Fallen trees return to soil, floods spread minerals across plains. The lightning is a painter, sketching light upon the canvas of the sky. The thunder is its echo, a drumbeat reminding us of scale. And the rain is a lullaby, steady, rhythmic, ancient. To stand within a storm is to feel small, yet connected, as if the universe itself has opened a conversation. You are not outside it, you are within it. The same air that fuels the storm fills your lungs. The same water that falls upon the earth flows within your veins. And when the storm passes, silence returns. The air is clean, the world renewed. And you realize storms are not endings. They are pauses, turning points, reminders of balance. They are fierce guardians of Earth's rhythms. And in their wake, the calm feels even deeper. As we step out of the storm, into the quiet that follows, we notice something new. The way storms are not isolated, but part of a larger rhythm. A cycle that flows between wet and dry, hot and cold, growth and rest. For weather is not random, it moves in repeating patterns. waves and cycles that echo through time. And so, in our next chapter, we will trace those rhythms, exploring the great cycles of climate and weather, the hidden patterns that shape the dance of Earth's sky.